Whatever you do, make sure you visit AshKickin.com for your home fragrance, health, and beauty needs. Quality products at a great price.
This is Bobby, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? First things first, congratulations to Daniel Cormier. Once again, he dominates Rumble. Anthony Rumble Johnson basically submits him into retirement. He choked him out with a rear naked choke in the second round. You know, before I even talk about the fight, I just want to say you have to give Daniel Cormier a lot of credit. I mean, this man, he came from Strikeforce, where he won somewhat of a tournament over there. Then he transitioned over to the UFC, moved down in weight, became the light heavyweight champion, beating fighters like Anthony Rumble Johnson. Is very impressive. To just come down in weight and become the light heavyweight champion and be a dominant heavyweight champion. On top of that, beating Alexander Gustafsson, someone who a lot of fans thought was going to take over after John Jones had his hiatus, basically. Speaking of John Jones, it also goes to show you the levels of talent there are when it comes to the UFC or the light heavyweight division. Because you look at John Jones, he beats Daniel Cormier, and I think we all believe if it wasn't for all of the outside distractions, John Jones, he would have did it again in a rematch. So you see, with John Jones out of the way, now Daniel Cormier, he becomes the light heavyweight champion, defends the title, and he's the man at age 38. So it was a very, I mean, it wasn't the greatest performance, but he submitted Anthony Rumble Johnson. He submitted him. I mean, in the first round, Rumble Johnson, he came out trying to throw bombs and kicks, and, you know, he only did that for a quick, brief time, and all of a sudden, surprisingly, he went into trying to clinch, attempting to take Daniel Cormier down, but he really had no success. Now, it was surprising to me because Anthony Rumble, and that's why they call him Rumble, damn near, I mean, he's known for his stand-up game. But clearly, I don't know what it was, but he must have had a lot more respect for Daniel Cormier's stand-up game, because it seemed like he wasn't really comfortable just standing up and trading with Daniel Cormier. So, you know, he wasted a lot of energy trying to take down Daniel, and he couldn't really do it. In the second round, Anthony was able to take down Daniel, but as soon as he took him down, Daniel got right back up, and then Daniel took him down, and that was pretty much the beginning of the end. He ended up getting behind Anthony, and he choked him out. And pretty much as soon as he got him to the ground from that rear naked choke position, Anthony was ready to tap out. So that's how that ended. You know, I will say, you know, a lot of times we compare boxing to UFC when it comes to it being a better idea for them to only have one champion like in the UFC. I believe, you know, there's some good and bad when it comes to that situation. Maybe a lot of people would say there's more pros than cons when it comes to having only one champion. I mean, the good thing is you're pretty much forced to fight the number one guy in the division. And that you can also attribute that to the fact that Dana White, he pretty much runs the entire organization. It's not like boxing where you have, you know, promoters, managers, and et cetera, you know, networks, different networks, all of those things. And the UFC, it's just Dana White. And Dana White tells you, look, you're going to fight this guy, and that's just all that's to it. You can't just say, you know what, that guy is good, let me go ahead and fight this guy. You can't do that in the UFC. Now, it's not a huge downside, but the only downside to that is situations like this one right here with Anthony Rumble Johnson. You know, he loses to the champion, and, you know, he wins a couple fights, and he gets thrown right back in there with the champion again. See, if this was boxing, at least, you know, Anthony, he could fight, you know, another champion and maybe win that belt, and then they could, you know, take a little bit more time to build up a rematch with Daniel Cormier, but you can't do that in the UFC. Like I said, you win about 2 or 3 fights, you're getting thrown right back in there with the champion. So, you know, that's only slight downside, but once again, we're getting to find out who the best is, no doubt about it. There's not like 3 or 4 champions where we really don't know who the best is. So that is the good thing about the UFC. So overall, this was a great performance by Daniel Cormier. You know, outside of Jon Jones, it doesn't look like anyone is going to beat him. He's a great wrestler. And, you know, I remember Daniel was talking about when he first started UFC, he didn't even know how to, you know, fight basically standing up. All he knew how to do was wrestle. Now he's one of the best stand-up fighters in the game. So it'll be interesting to see if Daniel and Jon Jones, they actually get in the ring and they have that rematch. I mean, now with all the time that Jon Jones has been out, that would make the rematch even bigger, you know, than the first fight, of course. But, you know, we don't even know if Jon is still the same, because his last fight he had, he didn't look like Jon Jones. I mean, he was very timid, and maybe he was shaking off the ring rust, but now there's going to be even more ring rust. So let's see what happens in the future. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.
Hi, you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Woo!